Artificial intelligence and the rule of law. So many things to say about this, and a lot of things to understand. So let me go straight to the point. So let's begin for a better understanding of what is artificial intelligence. What do we know now about artificial intelligence is something that everybody is talking about. This everybody is talking about artificial intelligence, about data science, data analytics, machine learning, deep learning, etc., etc. This is like since 10 years, this big data era began to make more and more people discuss about this. And since 5 years now, it is like an explosion, and it's going to keep exploding like this. But what does this really means? What is artificial intelligence? So if you go on Google and you look for the definitions of artificial intelligence, you don't have many things, many clear answers here. For example, this is what Wikipedia will tell you. It's an intelligence which is demonstrated by machines, unlike natural intelligence displayed by humans and animals. Okay, how can we make a difference there? How can we say something about this? And maybe a better idea is like many really important textbooks about artificial intelligence point out that artificial intelligence is not only things, it's not only what machines are capable of doing, it's a discipline. And in fact, it's not a new discipline, has already half a century of existence. And it's about creating devices or thinking about the impact of any device that in some situation can understand its environments and take decisions, make decisions that will optimize his chances to successfully achieving its goal. So if you create an algorithm, you code an algorithm, you create a machine with a particular purpose, and this machine is capable to understand the conditions around in the environment and optimize the decision-making process to achieve its goal. So that was a little bit the idea, but how this represents in reality, what is what we see in reality. And what we see in reality is more something like this. Today, there are algorithms, software programs that they are able to understand anything that a person is saying. So now, for example, I am speaking, maybe behind this Zoom platform, there is, well, for sure, there is an artificial intelligence device that is capable to fully understand what I am saying, like decompose this, translate this, or make a transcription of this. The most classical example is when the objective is really specific. When you make an objective really specific, for example, playing chess or playing the ancient Chinese game of Go, there the objective is really specific. The objective is about win this game. And they have tested this against the best humans. For example, the case of chess was in the 90s when Deep Blue, this machine from IBM, if I remember well, defeated Garry Kasparov. About 20 years later, in 2015, AlphaGo, which is part of DeepMind, which is part of Google, defeated the best human player of Go in the world. This was kind of remarkable. There is a documentary. I invite you to watch this documentary. It's open in YouTube. You will find it really easily. Let me write down chat. Take a look to that documentary. It's open. You can find it for free in Google, in YouTube. It's really interesting. Why? Not many people knows about this game Go. And according to the most renowned scientific, there are even some discourse in 2013 that they say Go will not be defeated by a machine, a human player of Go, a professional human player of Go will not be defeated by a machine at least in 10 to 20 years more. And it happens that a couple of years later, this happened. A machine managed to defeat the best Go player in the world. Then you have the example of Tesla, like cars that can autonomously operate. They self-drive. Those are representation of artificial intelligence. Classic example and really polemic example is image recognition. We will discuss more about this. But as I told you before, artificial intelligence is a really huge discipline, and it's not new at all. This discipline was established in 1955 thanks to the work of Turing, Mr. Turing. I don't know if you know about this guy, but this guy helped win the war, the Second World War, Alan Turing. Please, there is also a film about this guy. It's really good film. Take a look on the movie. It's really, you will learn a lot of things. And thanks to this guy who developed something that is called today the Turing machine, the idea of artificial intelligence was created, established as a discipline right after the Second World War, 10 years later. But since then, there were a lot of enthusiasm about this, but then during the 70s and the 80s, it was like a winter, like nobody want to invest in this. Everybody start thinking that this is useless, that's just crazy scientific, doing nothing really serious, nothing really concrete, until 21st century. So what makes the difference? Because one may think this is super new technology. And to be completely honest with you, it is not so much a super new technology. It is, in fact, a good combination of more or less classic statistical technologies plus interesting work in informatics plus a lot of data. And this big amount of data is proper of the 21st century. Let me quickly review on this. The 21st century is the data era, is what we have the more right now. For example, just to have an appreciation of the amount of data we have until now, if we consider all the information that humans have created since the beginning of the universe until the year 2005, all this information can be stored in 130 exabytes of data. But what is an exabyte of data? Let's think about this. Well, if you think one letter, how could you store one letter into a digital space, into a laptop, into a USB card, into your mobile phone? Well, one letter uses 1 byte of digital space. If you take one page of a book that may have 1,000 to 5,000 letters, you will need 1 kilobyte of digital space. If you keep growing, let's now think about an entire book. Well, an entire book, roughly speaking, will need 1 megabyte of digital space to be stored. because this is the process that we have been doing during the 21st century. We are digitizing information. Everything that used to be on papers, on books, etc., 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 everywhere in the world now is start to being digitized. Is the information that we want to put into a digital store device, just in a way to back up information and to have access to this information in the shape of data. So 1 megabyte, I think you are familiar with what is a megabyte. So if we keep going, now I think this concept is you are more familiar with a gigabyte. You have heard about gigabytes. Your mobile phone have gigabytes. Your internet provider propose you 1, 2, 3, or 4 gigabytes of navigation on the web of airtime. Your laptop have a certain amount of gigabyte to store the information you need. So I think this concept you are kind of more familiar with. Well, 1 gigabyte is a measure of digital space. And in this amount of digital space, you can store the human genome, all the genetic information of a human being, let's say me or anybody, all the information that you have in your DNA, in your genetic code, all this information could be digitized and could be stored in just 1 gigabyte of space, of digital space. Let's keep going. Let's go terabyte. This is 1024 gigabytes. 1 terabyte, for example, is if you buy an external hard drive, quite likely this will be of half a terabyte or 1 terabyte. It's just a measure of digital space, how much information you can store here. And to make the proportion, to make the feeling, in 1 terabyte, something that you can go and ask to Amazon, for example, you can go to Amazon right now and buy an external hard drive of 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes. You can pay in an account in Dropbox, for example, that has 1 terabyte of space for you to keep all your information or you on your work, on your photos, etc., etc. So these terabytes and gigabytes are measures of digital space that you are familiar with. Well, 1024 terabytes is, so 1024 gigabytes is 1 terabyte. This is enough space to film 24/7 any second of a human life. If I can start recording the life of any one of you since you were born until you die, and I put all this information in high definition, all this information fits in 1 terabyte of data. Let's keep going with this story. All your filmable life experience fits in just 1 terabyte. So there is a lot of information that we can put here. This keeps growing. Let's think a bit about sustainable development. 1000 terabytes is a petabyte. And a petabyte, just to have a feeling, a sensation of proportion, if you consider the Amazonian forest in Latin America, where I come from, and you have 1.4 billion acres. If you think that in average you have 500 trees per acre, then you have 700 billions of trees. Imagine all the books, all the paper that you can make with all those trees, all the trees in the Amazonian forest, and all the books that you could write with all that paper will fit in 1 petabyte, will fit in 1000 terabytes. The last one, an exabyte. This was the origin. Well, basically, all the information that exists on Earth can go in some exabytes. And here's the point. This is what has been happening in the 21st century. Until 2005, human beings have created 130 exabytes of information. 5 years later, this multiplies almost by 10. In 2010, we have 1,200 exabytes of information. 5 years later, we have 7,900 exabytes of information. This year, we are over 40,000 exabytes of information. This is the amount of information human being has been created. And this has exploded in the 21st century. This is what gives the strength to artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence would still be in a winter era without the amount of data that we have right now. It's because of this huge amount of data that artificial intelligence has become so efficient in many, many different objectives, in many, many different tasks. Let's think about the digital universe. This is the explosion of information, or let's be more precise, this is the explosion of digital information in the world. Since 2009 till 2020, this is explosion. So to be completely honest, today, humanity don't even have the capacity to understand 10% of the information we have created. We just don't have the capacity. Either because we are not enough human beings, and we don't have enough people who are capable to understand and to manipulate this information. So we have like at least 10 to 20 times the amount of information we are capable to understand today. This huge amount of information is the fuel for artificial intelligence. This is what have changed in the 21st century. This is the short story about artificial intelligence. This break from the 20th century to the 21st century in the amount of information we have is what gives so much strain to artificial intelligence. But how artificial intelligence is related to the rule of law? And for me, I am not a lawyer, so I don't know what is exactly the rule of law. What is the impact of it? What does this mean? So let's figure it out. That's what I did on my life, research. And when I do research, you start asking questions. So my question was that, what is the rule of law? I start looking around, I look for some definition, and I found this: the authority and influence of law in society, especially when viewed as a constraint on individual and institutional behavior. Therefore, the principle whereby all members of a society, including those in government, are considered equally subject to publicly disclosed legal codes and processes. I think all of you understand this way more better than I do. But I keep on this trying to understand more about the rule of law, trying to understand this constitutional idea. And I found this, that the rule of law is something that aims to create equality. Like everybody should respect this, and I mean everybody. Nobody is above this. And this is in contrast with what happened in a tyranny, in a dictatorship, or in an oligarchy, where there are some individuals, institutions, or organizations that in somehow are over this rule of law. So when do we found this? Because this idea, although it's beautiful, I think you and we agree, is not so close to reality. I could just start talking about many examples in my country, in Chile, and I can find for sure many examples everywhere in the world where you find lack of rule of law, where you see institutions and people who are not subjected to the impact of the rule of law, or maybe they are subjected to the impact of the rule of law, but in a weaker way. They can manipulate this. And I found this interesting. Lack of the rule of law can be found in both democracies and monarchies when there is neglect or ignorance of the law. So when someone don't know the law and another person is aware of this asymmetry in information could create that the person who is aware of this can take advantage and create a lack of the rule of law, taking advantage of the people who are not aware of this. So at the end, this is also quite related with education, with ignorance, with leveraging on just the fact of knowing more the law. And who are the persons who knows the law better than everyone else? Well, lawyers. So how these two things relate, how artificial intelligence and the rule of law are connected. The rule of law is more apt to decay if a government has insufficient corrective mechanism to restoring it. So if this starts to be weakened, if the rule of law starts to be weakened by privilege, for example, and there is an internal regulatory mechanism that could correct this problem and re-establish a certain level of rule of law, so it's quite likely that the rule of law will keep decaying, will keep falling, and we will be in presence of many different manifestations of unfairness. So here's the point. This is the connection with information, because artificial intelligence, as you understood, needs information to be that power, to have this strength, and the information is in form of data. So what if the rule of law decay because of the impact of artificial intelligence? Because the presence of artificial intelligence create an asymmetry of information. People who are more aware of what is happening, until which point. So for example, be completely aware right now of how we are being manipulated and how all the data that we share is being watched, analyzed, and used to push and to transform our behavior as individuals and as a society. Example. This is just one particular example. And a study of the USA government have proved that today the best face recognition system, the best artificial intelligence system for face recognition, misidentified Black people up to 19 times more often than white people. You can go now on the web and search how many times a Black guy, a Black woman, a Black human being has been taken into by the police by an error of an artificial intelligence system for face recognition. This hasn't happened one in the United States. This has happened many, many times, many times. And I can keep talking about this is a race bias. So we start to build this story. Artificial intelligence, yes, can bring solution to many things, but needs a regulatory system here. And it needs this regulatory system because if not, it could be easily used to break the rule of law. There are examples about gender discrimination. One of the most famous examples is the case of Amazon, when some years ago, Amazon developed an algorithm for employee selection. Every time someone sends a CV, this algorithm will take care of pick the employee, the best CV for each position. And they start working with this artificial intelligence that they create, Amazon create this, and after a while, they realize that this artificial intelligence only recommends to hire men, no women. More than 98% of the cases, men. And what happened here? Why this is not working? It's not possible that it is always the men better than women. And it was a problem on how they feed this machine, this artificial intelligence. And this machine was fed with data, with information that was already biased. This data was mainly 70% men's. This information to feed this machine to make decisions was already biased, was biased from before. So those are the kind of things that we need to control. So the only option, we need to build responsible artificial intelligence. What is responsible artificial intelligence? Well, responsible artificial intelligence is characterized by 5 main topics. The first, fairness and bias. This relates to the problem of artificial intelligence systems making decisions that discriminate against certain population, like the example I have just given to you. Those kind of artificial intelligence are being used in our system that discriminate against a particular race population, like Black people or Latin American people, etc., that discriminates against women by gender, etc. So this is something that needs to be plugged in the beginning of the designing of an artificial intelligence. And in the same time, this is something that needs to be part of a regulatory system of data and artificial intelligence. This is where lawyers play the main role. This is what in Europe has been done with the RGPD. How are we going to create a regulatory structure for data and artificial intelligence? And this is a discussion that needs to be held by policymakers, lawyers, tech people. Is a definitely multidisciplinary discussion. A lot of people that work on ethics. Another characteristic of a responsible artificial intelligence explainability. This is really complex to explain. And here I just need you to take my word, my word, just believe me on this one. But today we have built machines that are capable of do amazing stuff, like Tesla, what Tesla does with his cars, self-driving autonomous cars. But this is the problem with deep learning and neural networks. If we want to know why this machine learning or this artificial intelligence device or algorithm have make a particular decision, we are not capable of do this, because this machine is capable of giving us the answer, like do this. But if we ask this machine, explain me why, the machine is not capable of do this, and we are not capable yet now until today of going inside this machine and find the answer. Example, I don't remember exactly in which state in United States the judiciary system start paying for a service to make the decision about when a man in prison deserves the conditional freedom or not. So this used to be work of lawyers and the judge that study and analyze the dossier, all the information about each prisoner that asked for this opportunity of going to conditional freedom, parole. In this state, these guys start working with an artificial intelligence, a company that provides this service. So the government of this state make a tercerization of this and pay money from the contributors to an external institution that use a machine learning algorithm and artificial intelligence to make this decision. The problem arrived that when, after many cases, one of the prisoners execute a right that he has. And this right is about, I want to know why the conditional freedom was not given to me. The judge make the decision, and this prisoner make use of his right to know all the details. Why you have decided not to give me the conditional freedom? And the problem was that the judge only followed the recommendation of the artificial intelligence. He didn't quite make the decision. So the judge, when asked to the company, hey, I want to know why your algorithm, why the service that you are providing to us, this artificial intelligence, decided not to give the freedom to this guy. And the people in this company just say, we cannot give you that information. We are not capable of knowing this. And that created a whole scandal. You can look also for this information on the web. This is explainability. This is create an algorithm where you can understand the decision-making process inside, why it's making some decisions. Another characteristic of responsible artificial intelligence, privacy. How can we respect the information of the individuals and organization? How can we be sure that sensitive information is being protected? Governance. How can we be sure that the artificial intelligence models we are building, they can be governed? They will not start escaping of our control. How can we be sure about this? What are the constraints that we need to impose in order to these automatic machines remain within a certain boundary of making decisions? Robustness. Artificial intelligence safety. Machine learning enables automated decision making. And as such, you want to make sure that those decisions stay within certain constraints depending on the business, society, and regulations, regulatory system, once again. So if we visit again all these 5 characteristics, robustness needs regulation, governance needs regulation, privacy needs regulation, explainability needs regulation more than anything else, fairness and bias needs regulation. Who are supposed to be the regulators? Who will regulate this? The government? How is going to regulate the government if the government don't know how to do it? And if the government don't know how to do it, there is a huge asymmetry in information. So if there is a huge asymmetry on information, the rule of law can be easily broken. That's what we saw. So from my perspective, from my point of view, this is honestly my opinion, should we use artificial intelligence for decision making, or should we use artificial intelligence for decision advising? And in this way, I think there always should be a group of people capable of analyze the decision of an artificial intelligence and decide if they follow this decision or not.